Mr. President, I had informed Senator Mikulski that I wanted to describe to my colleagues something that is happening in our state as I speak, and wanted to do so in morning business so it doesn't interrupt the flow of the debate over this bill. So let me ask consent to speak in morning business to describe the flooding threat that is occurring in my state at this moment.
Without objection.
Mr. President, Senator Conrad and I and Congressman Pomeroy, our two colleagues from Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar and Congressman Peterson just met with President Obama just a few moments ago in the Vice President's room behind the chamber to talk about the flood threat in our region. And as I speak, this is today's NOAA flood warning map of our country, and you will see that North Dakota is entirely green. The green is the flood warning areas in our country. We have an entire state under a flood watch, and the headlines in our state today: blizzard blasts the state. We've got a raging blizzard that has gone on now the last day and a half. It has closed the interstate highways. We've had up to 18 inches of snow in some areas, and then we have unbelievable flooding threats up and down the Red River and the Red River Valley of North Dakota, and now we have an urgent flood threat that exists in Bismarck, North Dakota, as I speak. I think it'd be helpful probably just to show a few of the scenes. This is piling sandbags. They've had nearly 3 million sandbags filled in a very short period of time, with college and high school students and National Guard and others in the Red River Valley filling sandbags. As I said, 3 million sandbags in a very short period of time. This is the North Dakota National Guard filling sandbags inside the Bismarck Civic Center. Just in the last 24 hours, we've seen a threat to the capital city, a very significant threat. And that threat is described in this photograph. This chart shows what is called an ice jam. There are 2 ice jams at this point on the Missouri River and the Knife River that flows into the Missouri River. This shows an ice jam, and as I speak, they are trying with explosives to try to deal with this ice jam. If there are 2 ice jams, and if this happens in the wrong way and one ice jam gives at the wrong time, we will see the entire south side of the capital city, Bismarck, North Dakota, with a substantial amount of water. Evacuations are underway as I speak in portions of that city. The mayor and the governor and others, the Corps of Engineers, virtually everyone is involved. And this is a very, very significant flood threat that just really in the last 24 to 48 hours has developed as a result of significant ice jams. This is a city that has not had substantial flood threats since a dam was built on the Missouri River about 60 miles north of Bismarck, North Dakota. But these ice jams have completely changed the calculation and pose a serious threat to the city of Bismarck today. And there's a great deal of work going on in the city. And I say to all of them how much we admire the work that they're doing, and they are heroes. There are so many in the military and just volunteers that are filling sandbags and doing the work that is necessary to fight that flood. The Red River Valley flood, this is volunteers in the Fargo Dome filling sandbags. As I said, several million have now been filled. It appears that this flood could very well top the estimates of the 1997 flood. In 1997, in the Red River Valley, Grand Forks, North Dakota, a community then of about 45 to 50,000 people, was completely evacuated. I rode down the streets of Grand Forks in a boat with a community that was completely evacuated. And in the middle of that flood, the center part of that downtown city caught on fire. And we had the spectacle of firefighters in the middle of a flood trying to fight a fire in a downtown area that had been completely evacuated. This is the Red River Valley. It is completely flat as a tabletop. You can't see a hill in any direction. And so because of unprecedented amounts of moisture, snowfall, and rainfall, and because all of that occurred on top of ground that last fall, when it froze up, was completely saturated, we now see once again the threat of record levels of floods. This is sandbagging outside of Fargo homes. These are in the last day or two. This is flooding in Beulah, North Dakota. This is 70 to 80 miles north and west of Bismarck, North Dakota. This is a feedlot in Mandan, North Dakota. You can't see any feed and you can't see a lot. All you can see is water. This is a flooded yard in Fargo, North Dakota. This is the outskirts of Wahpeton, North Dakota. This is 150 miles, 175 miles away from Bismarck, North Dakota. This is what the Jamestown Airport runway looks like. Point is, we face a very, very serious threat. The urgent threat at the moment is in Bismarck, North Dakota, with the determination to try to solve the problem with these ice jams to prevent substantial flooding in the capital city. And our thoughts and prayers are certainly with the folks that are there today trying to do that. In the Red River Valley, I'll be there tomorrow and also hopefully in Bismarck tomorrow night. But in the Red River Valley, the crest is expected in Fargo, North Dakota, on Friday, sometime late in the day. And so our hope is that the flood fight that is occurring there, and it's a valiant fight, Fargo has a lot of experience fighting these floodwaters. Mayor Wallaker and others have done an extraordinary job over the years. And once again, they're building earthen dikes, filling 3 million sandbags, doing all that they can in consultation with and in coordination with FEMA, the Corps of Engineers, the National Weather Service, the North Dakota National Guard, and others. I simply wanted to explain the circumstances of why we met with the President today, why we spoke with the Secretary of Homeland Security yesterday, and why it's important. And the President, by the way, said, as President Clinton did when Grand Forks was evacuated, the point is, in these circumstances, you are not alone. This government of ours at the city, state, and federal level brings to a flood fight a substantial amount of capability and expertise and a lot of people that know what they're doing. And added to that, the volunteers from all over our communities have done an extraordinary job. I spoke this morning to a person who runs what was formerly called the Crippled Children's School in Jamestown, North Dakota. It has been called in recent years the Ann Carlson School, but some very disadvantaged circumstances exist for children who are in that school, who, when a flood would come, they're not as mobile as others, and they had to evacuate the Ann Carlson School yesterday, and I think there were 60 to 70 children in that school that live in that school. They had to evacuate it, and again, these are kids with a lot of needs, and they had 75 young student athletes show up from the high schools and the colleges, and in 4 hours they evacuated that school because they had to take the beds and all the special equipment that those children need. In 4 hours, all those young college athletes and the fellow that runs that school, Dan, told me that it was extraordinary to see how many showed up to say, let us help you evacuate these children. So there's a lot going on, and as I said, I am going to travel to both the Red River Valley and over to Bismarck. But I wanted my colleagues to understand the circumstances. Again, to put the first chart back up, you'll see that today's NOAA estimate of our country shows that our entire state is under a flood threat. It's been an extraordinary winter, and even as we have this flood threat, there has been a raging blizzard blowing through our state, shutting down the interstate highways and dropping, in some cases, as much as 18 inches of snow. So it's been a tough time, but North Dakotans are a pretty resilient people, and we'll get through this, but I wanted my colleagues to understand the circumstances and why we asked to meet with the President today. Mr. President, I yield the floor.